Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my full Oracle deck collection video. Now I meant to do this when I did my tarot deck collection video. That obviously did not happen. Couple of notations is that as always, I will show you footage of the cards. I will show what they look like. It won't just be like my face the whole time. Also, they're in no particular order. There will be links in the description box below for all these decks. I think almost all of them are available on Amazon. Therefore, they will all be Amazon affiliate links. If not, I don't think all of them are. There's a couple that aren't. But for the most part, most of them will be affiliate links, just for full disclosure. And the card stock is a lot less relevant to me. I know if you watched my videos before, I ramble about card stock really crazily. That's not as important to me when it comes to Oracle decks. There are some notations that I'll make about some that are particularly bad or particularly good. There are some decks that just are fucking quality, and I love them. And other than that, I've got 22 decks. I'm not going to give a super thorough review of each one. I'm going to kind of go over how they feel, some notations about how I like to use them, and that'll be pretty much it. So let's just get into it. All right, the first deck I'm going to talk to you about is the Moon deck. Now, I got this, it was on my wish list, and one of you guys bought it for me, CJ, I believe. And I remember it came with, it doesn't matter for the review, but it came with a note that was just exactly what I needed to hear that day. And it made me cry. And it was, I just want to, since I'm talking about it, I wanted to take a second just to say, like, thank you. If he watches it, then thank you. Like, the deck, I appreciate the deck, but the note that came with it is really like... It was really special that day. I love the inside of this box. It also, the whole box and the deck and the cards all have that like, I don't know what the name of this coating is, but it's like that kind of suede-y, waxy kind of thing, which I actually really like. And the inside of the box says, may we walk with trust and love. May we inspire and be inspired by one another. May we celebrate the many shades of our shared cycles. This deck is all about kind of healing, and it's... I don't know if it's mantras necessarily. What does it say? Mantras, illustrations, and rituals. I love the artwork. I like this deck a lot. It takes a lot for me to work a deck into my regular rotation. But this one is slowly making its integration in. It's, the artwork is super pretty. It's really beautiful. It's really powerful messages. I will say there's one downside. The whole reason why I put this on my wish list and didn't purchase it myself, even though I really, really wanted it, was because it's a 44 card deck for like $45. So it's kind of unusually expensive, to be honest. I think it's worth the value. I just wasn't willing or had the ability to pay for it. So I will say it's an unusually expensive Oracle deck, especially considering it doesn't come with an especially large guidebook. It's not an especially thick deck. So it is kind of on the pricier side. I do really enjoy it though. And they're really beautiful. I think the messages in here are really powerful. Next up, now this one is pretty new to me. This is the Oracle of the Fairies. There are, I think, 3 decks that are new to me really recently. This one I'm really excited about. It feels really... I wanted to say high vibrational, but that's not really the word. It feels very much like a fairy deck. Like it feels exactly like I would want it to. Like if I was gonna purchase a fairy deck, I want it to feel like it has fae influence. I want it to feel like that kind of vibration. And I will say that this one definitely does. I haven't really used it much yet, other than a couple of pulls. Like I said, I just got it. But I really, as I've thumbed through it, I really like the messages that I'm seeing. The artwork is not particularly amazing, but I don't hate it. It's very kind of fantasy Photoshoppy. Some of them are better than others. Like I'm looking at this one, which is Celebration, and I can clearly see a lot of the layering and Photoshop, and some of them are better than others, but the way it feels is really, really nice, and the messages that are on it are really nice. I feel like it's fairly well thought out, honestly. Like, it feels like the person who made this has done a considerable amount of healing, which, by the way, that is Karen K, and the artwork is by Ginger Kelly, which I'm going to Google that person. But can we just agree that that is the most Irish name you've ever heard? Like, if I was going to guess the name of the person who made a fairy deck, it would be Ginger Kelly. Sorry, Ginger Kelly, for being really judgmental about your name. I don't hate the name. I think it's awesome. I read it and I was like, is that the most Irish name I've ever heard in my life? Like, I can clearly see a very redheaded Irish person. Ginger Kelly. That's not relevant to the review. I like this deck. It is really pretty, though. Now, I have 2 animal decks. One of them I got pretty recently. Not super, but fairly recently. This one I've had for quite a while. Now, this is not a very well-known deck. It's not a very popular deck. I got it originally in a subscription box. And I really wish it got more exposure. Because I do think it's a beautifully done deck. It's 60 cards, so it's pretty meaty. The cards are thick. They're good quality. The artwork is done by Jessica Swift. I follow her on Instagram. I love her artwork. It's very young, I would say. It's got like a childlike quality to it while having the artistic execution with maturity, if that makes sense. I know it's a lot of words to describe somebody's work, but whatever. The only downside to this deck is that it only comes with this fold-out pamphlet for the card meanings, which is genuinely pretty helpful. I was shocked regularly at how good and helpful this little pull-out is. But when I got this in my subscription box, I got it with this book, which is, I just recommend this book anyways. I use this book all the time when I have like spiritual connection moments with specific animals or like messenger animals. I will grab this book and I will read what it says, and that allows me to figure out what it is I'm supposed to be understanding from the universe, right? This is just a good book. I'll link this below as well. But these 2 things pair together really, really, really beautifully as well. I like the backs of these cards. These are good quality print. They're just really good. I found them to be very responsive. I found them to be specifically with this. I know it's a dumb little pamphlet, but I've had real significant moments where I pull a card. I don't even use the book. I just use this. And I'm just like, oh shit. Okay. I got you. Well played. Done. Okay, cool. I know I've never even seen anybody else like talk about this deck. To be fair, I don't really spend a ton of time watching reviews on YouTube, but or hardly ever actually. But I do think it should get more exposure. I do really like this. It's the Animal Allies deck. The inside of the box, on this side it says "You are not alone," which I love, and on this side says "Wild energy is all around you." It really is a very phenomenal animal deck. If you're somebody who likes animal decks, I would recommend getting it for sure. The other animal deck I have is the Divine Animals Oracle. I haven't had it for too long. It is really, really one of the prettiest decks I think I own as far as artwork is concerned. I also really like the backs of these decks. It feels very like cosmic and wonderful. The artwork is all borderless. You'll notice as I go through any of my card reviews, if it has borderless art, it automatically gets bonus points for me. I just want my artwork to go to the edge, full bleed. And I like that this deck has like little keywords on it also. So like this one says sea otter, and it also says transformation. The other thing I really like about this deck is that there's a person, and I think almost all, not all, but I think almost all these cards have like a person that is exemplifying the spirit animal energy of that animal while also having the animal on the card as well. There's kind of a the way the artwork is done is it's fantastic. I think if you're gonna buy a animal deck and you don't have anyone, I would recommend this one just because it is so easy to love. If you just want another Oracle deck or animal deck, I would recommend the Animal Allies. The next one is Black Moon Astrology cards. Now, this is one of those decks where I'll almost never use it in a client reading because it's really good for studying. It gives me a deeper understanding of astrology. The book that comes with this is meaty. It's not a very big book, but it has very thin pages and a lot of information in it. And this deck has, it's a lot. It's an astrology deck. And the book is good, but I wouldn't use this in a client reading because I don't have a thorough enough understanding of astrology to really do this. Like this one says, Grand Cross Provoker. I don't really understand the Grand Cross in astrology, so I would need to read this in the book. It doesn't come easily to me because I don't have my understanding of astrology is not deep enough to really fully immerse with this deck, but it's a great deck to learn with. I use it for myself, like my own personal pulls, and then I use the book to interpret it, and that I find it to be really, really, really informative in that way. The artwork is cool. It's very like cosmic. It's very whatever. Some of it does seem like, this is only because I went to school for photography and stuff like that, right? So I did a lot of print work and mounting and all that. There are quite a few images in here where I notice, but it's just me, that the image that's being printed on here is too low resolution almost. Like the image itself wasn't a high quality enough resolution to print this size, almost is what it feels like. That's going to be something that probably most people are never going to give a fuck about, but I noticed it. So the thing that you notice, just letting you know, if you are in the realm of Oracle decks online, you have seen this one already. There are quite a few decks that I have in my collection that are pretty popular and like mass production decks. There's a good reason most of the time. Like, there's a reason they're so popular, and it's usually because they're so fucking good. This is one of those decks. This is the Work Your Light deck. I will also tell you, and I will also link below, Rebecca Campbell, who's the author of this deck, and the artwork is done by Daniel Knoll. I'll tell you that she has a book called Light is the New Black. It's like a light worker book. It is fantastic. It's a super easy read. It's not even like a straight book. It has poems and little things in it. It's really, really digestible. It's a really good book. I'll link that below as well. I recommend it highly. I recommend you get that book and the deck, honestly. They go well together. This deck is stunning. It's a default. I use this for myself constantly. Client readings almost always. It's a beautiful card. It's very, very like high vibrational light worker vibe, which is helpful. It's a nice way to add a higher perspective, I would say, in adding depth to any reading or into your shadow work as well, if you're using oracle cards for shadow work. Weirdly, now I have a whole video, and I'll link it below if you're interested on doing shadow work with oracle decks and tarot decks. And one of the things to talk about in that is that surprisingly, I find that light decks are really useful for shadow work. This is one of those examples. So this is a light worker deck. It allows me the light to shine onto a shadow. This is a good shadow work deck in my opinion. It's also just good for, it's an all-purpose great deck, honestly. If you have 0 oracle decks and you are on a healing journey, this is the one you want. One of the things that I really love about this deck is a small detail that I'm a big fan of, and that is that the inside of the box says, you are the oracle, and I'm very much about that ideology. I'm very much about the idea that each person is their own light, each person is their own guru, each person is their own teacher. And it's okay to get information from other places. We all do that. It's how we, start to learn and grow. But at the end of the day, it's you have to trust. It's you that has to do the discernment. So I like that that's inside the box. I feel like that having that understanding built into it like that, it just makes me feel really good about Rebecca Campbell, who I already love. And while we're on Rebecca Campbell, let me just go over her other deck. Also, artwork by Daniel Knoll. This is first of all, I've talked about this before in my favorites video, but how good is this fucking box design? It's so good. It's so brilliant. I've never seen it before. It's done excellently. I love it, honestly. Now, I also like that I can just pull the cards out without grabbing the book and putting the book back in, all that. No, just, it's good. This is the Starseed Oracle. Now, if you are not familiar with the concept of what Starseeds are, I would recommend familiarizing yourself with that concept before you purchase the deck and see if it resonates with you, because this is very much about the starseed journey. And I think the more you know about the starseed journey and the more you understand about what starseeds are, the more this deck gains in depth. Like at first, I mean, I'm sure anybody could use this for the most part. Some of these cards are going to be, let me see, like there's Palladian and there's different starseed races that are listed in here, which I think might throw off some people for just regular use. But for the most part, a lot of these can just be used generally. It says, Child of the Cosmos, the intelligence of the universe lies within you. That could be used by anybody. But I think the more you get into a starseed journey, if you're on a starseed journey, if that's a thing, the more depth that this deck has and the more wisdom you pull out of it. They're very simple cards. Gain depths of wisdom and meaning the more you use them and the more you dive into them. And I just love Rebecca Campbell. I do. I want to be your best friend. All right, next up. This is the Messenger Oracle. I bought this at a shop in Maine because there was an owl on it. I got a thing with owls. I saw it. It had an owl, and I was like, fucking sold. I don't use this deck. I don't really like this deck. It doesn't vibe with me. And I'm going to tell you exactly how it feels. And I know this is a very judgmental thing that I'm saying that has no real basis. Like, I'm not basing this off of any information whatsoever. This deck feels like it was created to make money. It's very hodgepodgey. It's very, I don't find a lot of great depth and wisdom in it. I don't find it particularly helpful. I don't feel like it has a great, that's just me. If you have this deck and you love this deck, by all means, leave a comment and be like, fuck you, Stormy. This deck is fantastic and you're an asshole. That's cool. I respect your opinion. I'm telling you that I don't vibe with this deck. Theoretically, it's cool. The artwork in here is fantastic. And it almost seems like, the way I explain it is it feels like the artwork was assigned a meaning, not a meaning was brought to life with artwork, if that makes any sense. The artwork is really, really good. But I feel like a lot of the times it was like artwork was created and then it was assigned a meaning on a card. And it's not even like the messages aren't good. Show that you care. Heed the messengers. Know your power. See the signs. Time to reflect. It's not even like it's bad messages. These are important messages we all go through. I don't even know what it is exactly about it. There's something about it with me personally where this deck just doesn't feel like, I don't know. I'm not connecting with it. Oh, and I love what's on the back. Oh, it also has a particularly flimsy, thin, uninformative book, by the way. On the back it says, I am Gaia, I am the daughter of Great Spirit, who is the source of all. I am both magical and divine. As is all which I create. I am the Great Mother, I am your mother, and you, beautiful souls, are a physical manifestation of my love. I like that. I vibe with that. That's cool. Everything about this deck seems like I should vibe with it. I don't vibe with it. I don't know what to tell you. I'll show you footage I probably already have of what it looks like, but I don't know. There's something about it that just doesn't resonate with me. I'm not going to be like, go buy this deck, because I don't really care if anybody does. And I hope the author doesn't see this video, because she's going to be like, what a bitch. Valid, honestly. Another very popular mass market deck for very, very good reason is the Moonology deck. This is by Yasmin Bolin. She has a book called Moonology, which I also recommend, and I will also link below. It's all about moon rituals, and if you've seen my channel, that's kind of what we do here. So, very much about this vibe. The way this deck is, it's a Hay House deck. So are both of Rebecca Campbell's deck, by the way. They're all Hay House decks. I love Hay House decks. I love the card. I didn't mention it with the Work Your Light and the Starseed, but that cardstock and this cardstock, it's my favorite Oracle cardstock. It's the perfect size. It's not too giant. And it's nice and matte and thick, but not too thick. It's just, I love their cardstock. I love Hay House decks. I love Hay House books. I just love Hay House, if I'm honest. The way this deck works is there are various moon phases, from like full moon in Capricorn, new moon in Capricorn, all the way up to like eclipse or supermoon or blue moon or whatever. Like there's different moon phases, moon attributes, which are then assigned key phrases. This is one of those decks where you don't really need the book. For instance, full moon in Capricorn says this: the end of a tough cycle approaches. I don't really need more information than that. It's one of the things I like about this deck. I use this for client readings and my own readings all the time. This is a default deck for me. It doesn't require a great deep dive. It just adds an extra layer of like, confirmation and things like that when you are reading. I recommend it. It's a great deck. I love it. The backs have moons. The artwork is beautiful. They're all moons, but they're just beautiful moons. And I can't recommend it enough. It's one of my favorite decks, hands down. Next up is the White Eagle Medicine Wheel. I got this at a shop in Chicago. I saw it and I was like, yes, please. I'm a big fan of all kinds of indigenous vibes. And this deck feels like it carries a lot of wisdom with it. I will tell you, I haven't really used it much. It doesn't really call for me. It's not like, stole me. It just sits there and I'm like, I love you. Why don't you want to love me back? I don't know how to explain that. I feel like if you're somebody who reads a lot, you'll understand what I mean. Like some decks call for you, some decks really resonate with you, and some decks don't. I am in love with this deck, but it doesn't love me back. I don't really know what else to say. It's got one of these little ribbon pulls. It's pretty big, obviously. It's got a big, nice, big size book with oodles of wisdom information in it. The cards themselves are not particularly high quality cards, also not the shittiest cards I've ever seen either. I will say the artwork is pretty much all photographic, and they're not like high end photos. That's the one thing I think that kind of bothers me, as I feel like a lot of energy, effort, and intention went into the messages and what information the deck collects, which is really the most important part, right? This is why I love this deck. Like, it has wisdom in it for sure. But in this particular instance, I don't feel like a lot of, the photos themselves could be better. And I apologize to the photographer for making that assessment. But that's how I feel about it, honestly. It's photography work, and it's not like it's not professional photography, right? It's just photography. It's enthusiast amateur photography. But I do really, really like the deck. I just never really use it. It just never really calls for me. I've never used it in a client reading. I pull for it every once in a while, and that's about it. But if you're into native indigenous wisdom, I would recommend this deck. It does contain a lot of quality information for sure. Next up, if you watched my Shadow Work Oracle video, you've seen this one already. This is the Carolyn Miss Archetypes deck. Now, this is a meaty motherfucking deck. This is 74 cards. They are thick. They are large. I asked in that video before if people wanted to see it, and I got some good feedback. So I intend to do a video series on the various types of archetypes as dictated by Carolyn Miss. Her work seems fantastic, but I haven't really deep dived into her actual writing yet. So that video series probably won't come until May or so, because I still need to know her work much better before I start to make content about it. That being said, what I've seen so far is fantastic. This deck is all about shadow work. It's about the archetypes you hold within you and the positive and negative aspects that they have. This is a deck you work off of. This is a deck that teaches you about yourself and your shadows. And there are categories of different shadows and then subtopics within them. And there are I will say the book doesn't really have a lot of information. For the amount of cards and the amount of shit that's in here, the book is inadequate, but that's because she is an author. And I do think I need to get her actual book to understand more about it more thoroughly. I don't have a solid grasp, a deep dive into her work. And I think once I do that, these cards are going to be way more beneficial to me. I do think that they are awesome. I have so far already learned from them. They are excellent for healing work. And what I like about them the most is that they have the light and shadow attribute of each trait. They don't just push the shadow. And I think oftentimes we overlook the light attributes to our shadows. Like, there are certain behaviors and things and shadows that we try to overcome in our life. And we're like, that's terrible. I shouldn't be that. I shouldn't do that. Like, whatever. But when you do that, you disown your own shadow. And in such, you disown yourself, which isn't actually very helpful. You need to heal it. You also need to integrate it. And I think what helps me with integration is that I look at the positive aspect that shadow allows me. All of your shadows and traits that may be toxic, you have because at some point it was like a survival mechanism that assisted you in your life in some way. That mechanism, I'm going on a tangent now, but that mechanism is helpful in some aspects of your life. And I think knowing, understanding that you have those traits and being able to call upon them when it is beneficial for you in your life is important instead of just banishing that entire shadow altogether. So I like that she has in these cards the light and shadow aspect. It's one of the things I love about it the most. It's one of the reasons why I was like, I have to have this. I must study this. She did this. Like, she broke it all down. And I'm excited to learn more about it, honestly. All right, next up is the Yggdrasil Norse divination cards. Now, I have, you don't really need this information, but my personal, like, cultural ethnic background is Sicilian, and then the rest, there's a solid, I think it's a quarter Sicilian? 100. Yeah, so I'm like a quarter Sicilian. The rest of me is apparently, as I learned in recent years, just Nordic and Viking. Like, I hail from Vikings on one side, and the other side is Scottish. Like, it's just Scottish and Viking and then Sicilian. So I went through this phase where I was going to try to connect with my like Nordic Viking roots. And I got some Norse magic books and some heathen books and whatever. And then I got this deck. I don't really connect with that side of that lineage. I don't really connect with my lineage at all, to be honest. Starseed all day for sure. But I tried. I gave it my best. And the thing with this deck is you really need to know Norse mythology. Turns out I didn't know that. In order to use this deck properly, you have to understand the relationships between the various worlds in Norse mythology and the characters, deities, and types of creatures that are in it, and how they interact with each other and their history and the stories about them in order to understand when they come together in a spread, how those energies interact in order for you to be able to read this deck. I do not think I will ever know Norse mythology that well. I'm actually going to give this deck. There's a YouTuber. I hate to say this, I feel kind of shitty about it, but I don't actually watch his videos. I follow him on Instagram. I'm not even sure how that happened. At some point I started following him. But it's The Wisdom of Odin. If you're into Norse paganism, I think he's good. I'm going to be honest. I haven't really watched his videos. I follow him on Instagram. He seems to be growing well. He seems to be popular. So I'm guessing he's doing a good job. I don't know. I'm not that into Norse paganism, so... But he super is. I got a hold of him and I was like, hey, I got this deck. I feel like you're the kind of person who would like it. How about I send it to you? And he was like, cool. So I'm going to send it to him this week, actually, so that he can have it after this review. I'm done with it. It does not work for me. So, but if you're into it, if you're into Norse mythology and stuff, I think it's a cool deck. One of the reasons why I have a hard time learning with it is because all of these names, I don't know what it's like that Nordic kind of Icelandic verbiage that I can't pronounce, which makes it hard for me to conceptually start to like name everything because I can't even really. I can't. If you're into it, this is probably pretty cool for you. I'm not. All right, I've got a couple of dinky little tiny decks. I'm gonna just go over those real quick. Just come out of the way. First one. These are the next 3 decks I'm going to show you. This one and the next 2 are all decks that I got in subscription boxes. There was a time in my life when I was very into subscription boxes. And so I was just getting multiple all the time. And this is one of the ones I got in there. This is a Seed of Intention deck. Now, here's what I'll say. I never use it. Although I am sentimentally attached to it because there was a period of time when I used it a lot. And there was a period, and in that period of time, I found it to be pretty profound, weirdly. It doesn't seem like it would be. It seems real basic. I don't even know if you can purchase this online. I don't know. It's just a little thing I have. It's a daily focus. So each card starts with today and for today. So this one says, for today, I know there is magic in my life. And there was a point in my life when I was doing a lot of shadow work and a lot of healing, and I was going through a lot, and I was having a really hard time just waking up in the morning. And so I was using this deck a lot. Also, I don't know why, but these tiny little cards are so fun to shuffle. I was using this deck a lot at that point in time to give me something positive to focus on, just to get through my day. I think I'm done recording for a while. I'm gonna have to come back and finish this later. So apparently my landlord scheduled some people to come do some lawn work. I live in a rental property. It's a duplex. And yeah, so I didn't know because they don't tell me. Anyways, see if we can just pick up where I left off. Scene of intention. So what I was trying to say, I believe, is that it's been like an hour and a half. What I was trying to say was that I'm sentimentally attached to these cards because I use them a lot. I don't know that I'm going to be like, you should totally get these rock. I'm just saying this is a part of my collection, I guess. That's all. There's nothing really to tell here. They're just little positive affirmations for each day. This is another one I got in the box. It's the Crystal Grid Oracle cards by Ashley Levy. So I don't use these like an oracle deck, but I do use them all the time. So I'll make a video on this in the future. I plan to anyways. But I'm very much into water charging of all different kinds and techniques. And I try to almost exclusively consume one that's been charged in some way. And I use these for that. I have a glass pitcher that I put my filtered water into. I also have, if you care to know, I did a fair amount of research in trying to find a countertop pitcher that I could filter water, specifically fluoride, because that's really not a thing you find because it's a specific, whatever. Fluoride's hard to get out of water. But I didn't have the ability to get all the things you normally would get for that. So I did find one. I found a really good filter. I forget the name now, but I will link it below if you're interested. I filtered my water with that, and then after I filtered it, I charged my water, and I used these cards. It's little crystal grids. They have pictures of crystal grids on them. They also have words, and then they list the crystals that are used in it. So like this one says wealth. There's a picture of a wealth crystal grid, and it says snowflake obsidian, clear calcite, green jade, and Gaia stone, citrine, and pyrite. So there's pictures of crystal grids, and I tape them facing the picture into the water on my water container. And then with intention and whatever. So I use these to charge my water. I don't use them like an oracle deck. I suppose if you were trying to learn crystal grids, it would probably be really helpful. And then there's this. This is a Goddess Provisions deck. It's a sacred self-care ritual. I also got this in a box. I would never purchase it. I'm not going to tell you to purchase it either. This is a collection video. This is in my collection. I'm not really going to say anything else about it other than this card or this deck is just literally cards of ways to care for yourself. But some of them are just... like one of them is sex. Yeah, there it is. Good. I'm glad I could pull to it the second I said it. Sex. So, cool. That's not happening in my life right now. I'm not saying I wouldn't like it to happen. I'm just saying it's not. And everyone I meet, I'm just like, no. So this, I don't know why you'd purchase it. I don't know why anybody owns it. I have no need for it. Pull a card to tell me how to take care of myself. I'm good. All right, this one is new to me, and I'm immediately in love with it, and I'm confident I'm gonna use it all the time. Like this is gonna jump into my immediate rotation. This is The Universe Has Your Back. Now, I've saw this for a while, and I was like, dumb. It just seemed a little too like, what, like light beams and happiness. And I really have a hard time with spiritual accounts, people, or things that are just too love and light. And this seemed like it was going to be that. It seemed like it was just going to be this, like, a bunch of cards that are like, you got this. And I have no reason for that. And then there's a tarot reader that I watch on YouTube who does pick a card. And she started using these. And when I was she was doing pick a cards and she was using it. And I was like, oh, shit. Okay, you got me. I do. All right. So I bought it. And I started using it. And I just got it a couple days ago, and I'm 100% in love with this deck. I'm really disappointed in myself on some level that I love it as much as I do, but I didn't 100% love it. And I just grabbed whatever. And it says, when I lean on the faith of the universe, peace becomes real. It sounds like a bunch of cheesy fucking lines, but when you throw it in a reading, whoo, it's so good. I usually end all of my like client readings and my own, oftentimes, with another deck that I'll get into in a second. I'll do it next. It's my Unicorn Oracle. And because it's light and happy. And I really think I'm going to start using this one for that. So, yeah. This is, they're really pretty too. And is it Hay House? It feels like Hay House. It is. It is Hay House. The Hay House deck, it's got that great card stack that I love. All right, so next this is the one I was talking about. So I end, if you watched my favorites video, you already saw this. I won't go on about it too much because I can. This is the lightest, fluffiest, most positive unicorn oracle. It's just wonderful. And here's what I do with it. So whenever I do client readings, or oftentimes my own, not always, but client readings for sure, I pretty much always end. It's by Cordelia Francesca Brabs. I pretty much always end with one of these because when I give readings, they tend to focus on healing, right? They're very much about expansion and growth and healing and these kinds of things. And so in that process, there's a bit of heaviness always. Even if it's a great reading, there's always going to be that like things are going to go really great, but you have to do this, and this. And it's like things to be mindful for. And I find that with the Unicorn Oracle, it allows me to summarize all of the information from the reading in a way that reframes it into a simple, positive thing that you can remember easily. So the first one that's just sitting here just says, magic, make a wish, believe in miracles, magic surrounds you. And so the unicorns at the end always just make it like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. And they're just really light and fluffy, and they're really positive, and they're just one of those oracle decks where, you know, some oracle decks and tarot for sure will just drag your ass through the fucking mud until you're like, why did you do this to me? This is the oracle deck that never can do that. It just can't. It's like, here's the positive side of things, and I appreciate that. And I think I'm going to start pairing this with that Universe Has Your Back deck, because I feel like they go together well as just like a positive reframing when readings are heavy. So this is one of the other ones that's pretty new to me. Not super new, but pretty new. Green Witch Oracle. Now, I saw it, and I was like, sounds like my vibe. I love the artwork. It feels like a Hay House. Is it? Nope. It's not a Hay House. Rock cool. It's a really, really beautiful deck. It's not working for me like an oracle deck, though. I think it's an herbal magic study deck for sure. Also, green is my favorite color, and the backs are green, and they have the like elemental symbology on them. The cards are beautiful, and they have a lot of associations with them. They have like astrological associations, elemental associations, and other such things. There's the herb itself or the plant itself, and then also a keyword. I would like to use this more as an oracle deck. It hasn't really been working for me well as an oracle deck. It doesn't seem to like feed into my readings very seamlessly. I do think it's an excellent study deck for like plant magic, herbal magic, botanical magic, that kind of thing. But it hasn't really worked for me so far as an actual oracle deck. They're pretty glossy, which I'm not a huge fan of. But they're beautiful. They're so, like, I want to love the shit out of this deck because they're just so pretty. But it has not connected with me in a way that allows me to use them in a reading. It just seems more like it's more like a study deck is what it feels like. Earth Power. Now, I spotted this at a shop, I don't remember where now, somewhere in Michigan. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, this is for me. I love this deck. Now, it wasn't until I got all these out that I realized I haven't really been using this as an Oracle deck. But I'm definitely going to start doing that immediately. So Sacred Sites, it's by Stacy DeMarco. Sacred Sites are a big thing to me. In the long term, there will be content that comes out, a lot of content. If everything goes the way I want it to, if this channel works out the way I want it to, and I can bring into life the vision that I have for this channel, Sacred Sites is going to be a huge topic that I cover. Super, 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 super about that life. Alternative human history, sacred sites, ancient wisdoms. These are a big deal to me. And so that's what this deck really is. It's a list of sacred sites. What I love about it is there's a lot of things I love about it, but in the book, it gives you the actual like GPS, latitude, longitude coordinates of those sites, the location, elements, key energies, description, and then also if you're going to visit it, some like tips on visiting it. So it also has, so aside from that, it also has like key phrases. So the first one that's sitting here is Temple of Isis in Aswan. And it says, I am open to be mothered. I can mother. I can heal my relationships and my life. My body is a miracle and can be healed of imbalance. So it's not just locational. It also has helpful information that is based on the energies or things of the location on the card. The artwork is really cool. It's a lot of composite work, but it's like largely photographic with some composite work over it. So the backs also have this earthy, like atlasy thing. I love this Oracle deck. I have not been really using it. I have like randomly pulled a card and been like, where should I go? Ooh, yes. And repeatedly pulled Palenque, so that's on my list for sure. And yeah, anyways, so this is really cool. If you're into sacred sites, for sure. Otherwise, it's still pretty cool. Oh, it says Palenque in the back. Next up is the Oracle of the Shapeshifters. This is a Lucy Cavendish deck. This is, I mean, it can be good for shadow work for sure, but it's also just good for, I find, insight and direction. And it's very, I feel like this deck tends to give me a lot of information on what I need to know moving forward, oftentimes. I did start modifying it and then not finish modifying it, and I'll show you why, because that's the only pet peeve I have. The artwork on this is absolutely fucking beautiful. It's some of my favorite, but I don't like the artwork on the back of the cards. I don't know why, but I just don't like it. And I really don't like the borders on the sides, so I was trying to reback them, trim them, and take the borders off so that before, after. But I haven't finished doing that. Anyways, so the basic concept behind this deck is that they are shape-shifting creatures. Each one has like one of these big-eyed creature people with an actual like animal or mythical creature, and it's like the shapeshifter that goes between them. And it has a number, some keywords, and the name of the creature or shapeshifter on it. And in the book, I find with this particular book seems to be really, really excellent at triggering specific downloads, informations, or things I need to understand. It's a really well-written book. I find it to be incredibly helpful. I want to definitely recommend this deck. All right, 2 more left, and they are the most magical, intense, beautiful decks I have. Both of these decks are decks that I use very, very sparingly. Oh, I just realized all my jewelry came off. I went and did dishes in our break, by the way, when they came. I went and did all my dishes, so all my jewelry's gone now. This is Beyond Lemuria. If you watched my, let's see, my Ostara or Spring Equinox pick a card, or my favorites, you would have seen this. This is, it's a Lemuria deck. It's probably the highest like frequency deck I own. And the thing about this deck that I'll tell you is this book, Izzy Ivy, right? Izzy Ivy, right? She like channels these paintings, and the book I find always gives me these instantaneous downloads. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. I'll get a pull a card, I'll read the book, and I'll just like get it. These cards are, I would say, the most beautiful cards I've owned. I love her. Her paintings are crazy. She just posted a painting on Instagram to showcase another deck she's coming out with, and I literally commented, "Take my money. Where is the pre-order?" And she was like, "Not yet." I was like, "God." Her decks are super beautiful. It is very, 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 very high vibe. The other thing about it is this deck is not a deck that you read the card. I pulled up a poor example of that. This one says vulnerability, but a lot of these cards aren't necessarily understandable right off the gate. Let's see. Journey to Wholeness. Shine Your Light. Okay, I'm pulling very obvious interpretations, but I would still recommend anytime you use these cards to read the book, because the amount of information that's withheld in them is incredibly beneficial. I don't know that I could recommend. If you are on an ascension journey, you're going to want this deck for sure. It is just killer. It is quite large. It's very matte. It's really beautiful. The backs are beautiful. The information is astounding. Just 10 out of 10. This deck is so, magic. It's fucking magic. And last but certainly not least, this is the Mystical Shaman Oracle. Now, there's also came with a sheath that covered this that had like another design on it. I forget now. I lost it. This is a collaborative deck between, I'm going to fuck these names up. Alberto Villaldo, Colette Baron-Reed, and then Marcela Lobos. And then the artwork is illustrated by Jenna. Oh, I fucking forgot. Her name is so hard to pronounce. Jenna Della Gradagalia. The inside of the book says, "Before there was time, before there was language, there were the sacred symbols." This deck is fucking magic. So, first of all, it's super high quality. The packaging, you have not just a ribbon, a very thick, sturdy ribbon, and it's a box in a box. It's not just like a pile of cards with a ribbon in a box. It's a box in a box. Super, super high quality. Again, Hay House. I swear they print the most high quality cards. And then another ribbon inside that box. This is a meaty deck. It is not... So I'll tell you about how I use the deck. I take this deck with me to plant medicine ceremonies, and I share it with people who were there. That is about the only time, other than occasionally pulling them for myself. This deck to me is sacred to the point that I don't want to abuse it. I don't take it for granted. I don't overuse it. This deck is incredibly insightful. I think there's literally sacred wisdom that just oozes out of them and into you when you use it. You have to use the book. This one's called The Circle, Jaguar, Hummingbird, Upper World, Holy Mountain, The Sweat Lodge, The Drum. So they're not cards you're going to look at and then just understand them. And the book is broken down into 3 parts. Inside the book, you have the essence, which is the essence of the card itself, the invitation, what the card is inviting you to do, and the medicine within the card and how to heal with it. This is an incredible deck. It's just fucking magic. But it's not a deck that I did use it in my Spring Equinox pick a card. And I even specifically said in there that, like, I'd never use this deck for people ever. But it was screaming. That and the Lemuria deck was screaming for me to use them. And I was like, okay. maybe I'll start using it more. I don't know. It's weird. It's almost like it's coming out of hiding. Like it's, I don't even know how to explain it, but this, I don't even know what else to tell you about this deck other than you just have to experience it to understand it. It is fantastic. It has real deep, the wisdom in it is like, it's like, you know it, it's like it's deep in your heart. There's real truth and resonance in here that I find to be undeniable. I don't really know what to say about it. I'll show you pictures of the card. I probably already have, I'm sure, but I don't know what to say about this deck other than it's fucking magic and fantastic. Leave me a comment below. Tell me about your favorite Oracle deck. Do you have these decks? Are any of these your favorites? Do you have favorites that I didn't pull? Are you like, how did you not include this one deck, Stormy? Let me know. Also, if you enjoyed the content, likes, subscribes, bell notifications, shares. These help me more than you know. They're massively beneficial to me and the growth of the channel. And also, if you vibe with me and you like my content, I started a Facebook group called Atlanteans. There's a link below. It's a group on my Stormy Atlantis page. It's a cool kids club. Come hang out. Like, we're vibing in there. It's cool. We got some cool people. And if you want to join, come join. I don't really know what to say about that. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day. See you in the next video.